says, Go, go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit, teaching them to observe everything that I've taught you. And behold, I will be with you till the end of the earth. When we think of missionaries, we say those are the ones who fulfilled the Great Commission. They went. That's not the Great Commission. The word go is a participle. How many of you remember your English 101? A way to explain that is anything that ends with the letters ing. The Great Commission could be read this way. Make disciples of all nations by going to them, by baptizing them, by teaching them. Go, teach, baptize. 3 participles. Where's the emphasis? Make disciples. We're all called to do that, not just the missionaries. We're all called to make followers of Jesus. I hope we all do our part. I work with Engineering Missionaries International. We have our banner up here, and some folks have actually asked me, why is the M capitalized and the E and the I are not? Engineering Missionaries International. Our emphasis is on the ministry. It's not on the engineering. It's not that we go internationally. It's on the ministry. We just came back 4 years ago from being out in the field, in the mission field. We were out there for 8 years. We came back 4 years ago, 2008. Our help to help us unload the truck, big, huge truck. At that time, my son Jared is not 140 pounds, 6'1". He is now, but 4 years ago he wasn't. He was a little fella. And then 2 daughters and a wife. And I'm thinking, with this help, I can unload the truck, but it fell through. All my helpers said, sorry, something came up. And I was desperate. And I called Grace Chapel, spoke to Patty, and I said, you don't know me. I'm a missionary who just came back, and we're settling into Castle Rock. Can you help? Guys from Grace Chapel came. They don't know me. I don't know them. They unloaded the truck. They didn't want anything in return. We're here now because you have been family to us for the last 4 years. We started not in the missionary world. Esther grew up in the ministry. Her dad was the pastor of a big church in Oakland, California. She usually says, I've been in the ministry since I was in my mother's womb. Her dad was pastoring even before she was born. I didn't become a Christian till much later. And I came to the U.S. to go to Biola University. Some of you have heard of it. Acronym for Bible Institute of Los Angeles. That's where I went. So I came over as a foreign student to this country. My wife and my children are a whole lot more apple pie and NFL than I am. Because I didn't grow up here. I came over, studied at Biola University, met my wife, we were married. She went to Urbana, a mission conference, and God spoke to her. She came to me and she said, what do you think, Wilson? Mission field? I was in clinical practice at that time, and very happy doing that, living very comfortably. I said, why would I want to do that? We have a nice house, we have the dogs in the backyard, the children, and the cars in the garage. Why would I want to do that? But that was what God called. It took me a while before I finally said, God is speaking. And so I quit my practice in mental health and said, let's go. We candidated with Wycliffe Bible Translators. They were going to send us to Papua New Guinea. Now, I know Papua New Guinea because I grew up in Southeast Asia. In the rural part of Papua New Guinea, they still practice cannibalism. There are still headhunters there in a different form. Port Moresby, the capital of Papua New Guinea, it's not a fun place to be. On the weekends, the natives hop on the back of their pickup trucks. They get totally drunk, and they're running around with machetes. It's just not a pleasant place to be. And I said to myself, I don't want to go to Papua New Guinea. No, with 3 little children, a wife, and that's where I'm going? I don't want to go there. So I struggled with God, and I struggled. And when I finally said, all right, we'll go to Papua New Guinea, God said, good. Now go to Singapore. I've never stepped foot in Papua New Guinea. Doesn't that remind you of a story in Genesis about Abraham? Give me back your son. And when he finally said, all right, he says, never mind. That's what happened to me. That's what happened to us. So we were in Singapore for 8 years. I taught in a seminary there for 6, and then the last 2 years did something different. What the industry calls member care. I don't like that term, simply because people always ask me, member of what? It's taking care of ministry personnel. Anyone who's in the ministry, we take care of them. So I did that for 6 years. 6 years teaching in the seminary, 6 years doing ministry personnel care. And I continue to do that now. Starting this year, we joined Engineering Ministries International. Who's Engineering Ministries International? Engineering Ministries International, if you can see, is 30 years old. We've been around for 30 years. They're a group of engineers, architects, drafters, surveyors, construction managers who say, we want to serve God. We want to serve God. And so, Engineering Ministries International seeks to do that. Our 3 cornerstones of Engineering Ministries International, the 3 E's, the first is evangelism. That's what it's about. It's going with the good news of God. The second is the engineering. We go out, we look, survey the ground, do the topographical landscaping. Now, I'm not an engineer. I'm a clinician. I don't know when they talk about topographical stuff, and okay, that sounds good. They survey the ground, they see where the rivers are, where the water is, where the well should be, and all that. Then the engineers draw up the plan, the master plan, where everything should go. Then the architects put the finishing touches. Then the construction managers go in and they build it. That's what engineering ministry does engineering-wise. And then the third E is encouragement. Engineering Ministries International goes into underdeveloped third world countries. And they want to encourage the folks. Yes, you live in absolute impoverished state. Be encouraged. We can try and make things better. And that's what we are all about, the 3 E's. Now, I'd like to take some time to share with you something that's very dear to my heart. When it comes to being someone who's not homegrown here, sharing the gospel is very, very different for me. When I taught in a seminary in Singapore, it's a seminary that is established by Campus Crusade for Christ. And those of you who know Campus Crusade for Christ, Bill Bright, the 4 spiritual laws. Mr. Bill came up 2 weeks ago and shared, here's 6 words. Is it 6? Yeah, 6 words you can use, that acronym, gospel. This is how you can share the gospel. I have developed a little seminar called The Other 2/3 of the Gospel. Did you know that the gospel that is shared here does not land on fertile soil in the other countries? When you go to a different country and you say to them, all men have sinned and fallen short, and they nod their head, Christ, the Son of God, have come and died and paid the price that comes with your sin. And that's where you lose them. They agree that they sin. But when you tell them Christ came and died for your sins, it doesn't matter that much to them. That's not their felt need. That's not what is so important to them, because they look at life differently. Sociologists say there are three worldviews. America and parts of Europe, the worldview is one of justice and guilt. Do the right thing, do the just thing. But if you're found guilty, if you're wrong, say you're sorry, make amends, move on. That's our worldview here in the US. There are two other worldviews. Another worldview is one of power and fear. You see this in places where there's the man who has the army, who has the guns, and then there are the people who live in fear. Or there's the witch doctor who has the direct line to the spirits, and the rest of the villagers live in fear, for fear that the spirits would do harm to them. And so, their lifestyle, their whole worldview is one of who's in power and who lives under great fear. There's another, the third worldview, which is honor and shame. Now, some of you here may actually resonate with that. Those of you who are from the older generation, you said, the US used to be that. You're right. You're right. Honor and shame. Do what is honorable. Don't bring shame, not to your family, not to your regiment, not to your company, not to your church. You never do anything that will bring shame to them. Someone from that worldview, or from the power-fear worldview, God has come. Jesus, in the form of Jesus, died for your sin. And they say, that's not my felt need. My felt need is to be relieved from fear. What if you told them the gospel that says, and our God, Jesus, is the King of kings, the Lord of lords, the God of gods. With him on your side, who can be against you? Fear no one but God himself. No one else can do harm to you. If God places you in his palm, nothing can snatch you out of it. All of a sudden, their eyes widen up and they say, you mean I don't have to live in fear? No, you don't. Is that the gospel? Yeah. Over there it is. If you go to a place where it's honor, shame, and you say to them, Christ came that you may be adopted as his co-heir, risen up to a place of honor, that you may sit at the table of God. Is that not the gospel? All the shame that you have, that you were born with a 6th toe, that your nose is a little bit crooked, that your child is doing very poorly in school, that your business is not doing as well, that your car is not as fancy as the guy next door, whatever your point of shame is, God has come that you may be co-heir with him. Their ears begin to ring. That's what they need to hear. So one of the things that I like to do at EMI, now that I've started there, is to begin to train our people. Yes, we're about evangelism, but will you say the right gospel? Will you say it in a way that they can hear it? And during Ministries International, we have 4 types of staff. We have our full-time staffers, 105 of them, with their spouses and families. They are all over the world. We have 7 offices around the world. And then we have our interns. This is an interesting group. These are the young people, 23, 24, right out of college, haven't found a job yet in the engineering, architectural fields. They want to get some hours and experience. They're believers. Some of them are not, actually. They come to us, young guys, young gals. We send them out to our different field offices, and they serve out there. The third group are our long-term volunteers. These are people who say, I'm between jobs or I'm taking a break, and I want to give you 6 months, 8 months, a year. And then there are short-term volunteers. By the way, do you know how I found out and met EMI? Our previous elder, Lee Landine, who you might see in one of those pictures behind me, he introduced me to them. He went out on 2 trips to Sierra Leone. He is one of the short-term volunteers who said, I'll give you a week, I'll give you 2 weeks, I'll go out. And I'll serve. 4 groups of people who serve with us. One of the things that we've found is, while the emphasis has always been on the work, we're beginning to realize that the answer when we say the harvest is plentiful is not recruit, recruit, recruit. That is important. We need people. We need the workers. The workers are few. But if the workers, the attrition of the workers are high, if you send people out and they poop out, you have to send more. So the emphasis on taking care of those who are out there, making sure that the time there is good, is fulfilling, that their spiritual, their physical needs, all that are taken care of. That's where I come in. Out on the table, you will see 2 of EMI's prayer letters. I deliberately brought the one that, this is the most recent one that we have, featuring our 30-year anniversary, but I deliberately brought the one just before that. When Lee introduced me to EMI, he introduced me to this man, Jim Hall. Jim Hall and I became very close friends. He died last year of cancer. It was very sad. And when Jim came to EMI, he came not just as an engineer, he was also a pastor. And so he realized the need to shepherd the people, not just to say, what's the next job on the line? He was not focused on tasks. He was focused on the needs of the people, the staff, the 4 groups of people. And so when he died, the board of EMI said to the directors, we challenge you to fulfill 3 things. Not challenge, they mandated the directors to fulfill 3 things. 1, you will provide for Jim's widow. And so the organization pulled together and said to Nancy, the money that you have been living on through Jim, we will continue to give you on a monthly basis for the next 12 months. We will continue to provide for you, care for you in however way we can. The second, we need to now be a little bit more prudent in planning. Should there be another staff who loses his life or her life? So there is budget being put aside now to make sure that if that happens, the surviving family members will be cared for as best we can. The third challenge, bring in an in-house caregiver. That would be me. So I ask you today, pray for EMI. Without your prayers, we cannot do what we do. You are the wind under our wings. Pray for us. We go all over. We do 2 things. We design schools, seminaries, hospitals, orphanages. But the second thing we do that we're launching this year is we call it our disaster response team. EMI started 30 years ago on a disaster. We have always had a disaster response function, but never formalized it into a team. So starting this year, we have a retired Army colonel who is joining us. He will be the second staff joining EMI who is not an engineer, architect, surveyor, construction guy. His unit that he led in the army is the people who strategize and plan all the logistical and strategical needs for launching our Delta Boys, Special Forces. This guy is cream of the crop. And he says, I'm retiring and I want to join you. And I want to strategize, take care of all the logistics on sending out the teams of disaster response. I don't know if you've noticed this, but is it me or am I perceiving that there are more and more disasters these days? Something's going on. We send our people out there and we say, there's been flooding, there's an outbreak of cholera. Your water is not safe to drink. We bring our test kits, we test the water, your water is not safe to drink. But if you put chlorine pills in there, bleach in there, give it 2 weeks, it'll be safe to drink. In the meantime, we tested the water from that well. That's good to drink. Or we come up with some kind of filtration system. This is how we do. We build from nothing, or we go and we respond to a crisis. Pray with us as we launch this ministry. There are some of you here who are in construction, who are engineers, architects, surveyors. I heard yesterday from someone who says, I'm a drafter, but I'm obsolete. The word drafter is up there, but you're right, they're CAD operators these days. Fancy word. But if there are people here who say, I have 2 weeks, I'd give you 2 weeks. Join us. We'd love to send you out anywhere into where we have our offices. Where are our offices? We have one in Asia. It's in India. We have one in Latin America. Was in Guatemala, but our people kept getting accosted with knives, robbed. So we moved it to Costa Rica, a little bit better. We have one in the Middle East. I've been asked, if you look at our literature, it's not listed because the Middle East is sensitive. It's a sensitive place. And then, let's see, Middle East, and we have one in East Africa, in Uganda. And then we have our sending offices in the UK, where we recruit from Europe, here, down in Colorado Springs, where I work. And then the third office is in Canada. Pray with us. Thank you for being part of our family. The missionaries here, we put our little prayer letters in that little beautiful pocket thing that Tom built for us. Look into it once in a while. Pick up your prayer letter. See what's going on. Pray for us. Oh, we appreciate that. Thank you.